Hey everybody, welcome to Teamfight Talkshow. That's right, we're back. I am DoA. With me is Frodan, as always. And today, our very special guest is not Noster 8, 9, 10. No, it's Noster 11. That's right, or just Noster if you want. He's here with us all the way from his bedroom where I don't actually know where you
Boston?
are. In Boston, exactly. All the way from Boston, like I knew from the very beginning. Thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me. A long time viewer of the series, and looking forward to the show.
Great. It's
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
be a good one, I guarantee you. Frodan, how you doing today, man?
Doing all right. It's been really busy past few weeks. Doing the Hextech Double Up event. Sorry, my mic's probably not ideal spot. Also, the Innovation Cup, and we got
Right.
regionals prep. So it's a busy time for TFT coming up. Wait, actually, I didn't. I wasn't. They didn't. They haven't officially announced who's casting regionals, so I may or may not be preparing. I can't confirm or deny.
You know, it's like it is tradition on this show to spoil who's casting regionals. So it's or who's casting the next TFT event. So, like it doesn't really matter. Like we are the vehicle that announces this stuff now. It's just been
Apparently,
decided,
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Just
Official
how
So
it
plan.
it's
is.
been busy. I'm trying to get some games in on the new patch. And I, actually was watching a little bit of a Noster stream to see what his insight was, and ready to talk some TFT.
All right. Yes.
Yep.
I am hyped as well. But before we get into it, I do want to get to know Nostra a little bit more. So tell us how it was you got into TFT in the first place. Did you have any other previous kind of competitive gaming background? What drew you to TFT, and then what drove you to compete?
I think primarily for me it was just I had been playing Overwatch pretty religiously before, but it was about the time when I personally stopped kind of enjoying Overwatch. I was kind of feeling out some of the games like Rainbow Six and
I know how that
CS:GO,
goes.
but I yeah, I believe his name was Yang. I haven't talked to this guy in a while, but his name was like Yang Shuo or something like that, and he
Hmm.
introduced me to TFT, and I've always liked strategy games, so I just started playing it, and I really enjoyed it. But as for competing, I think it was just more natural as I climbed up the ladder a little bit. I've always enjoyed competition, so I think it was just a natural thing to do.
Cool. All right. Well, we're happy to hear. You're a fun player to watch. But let's get into our augments. That's right. We have augments every single show. And today we're going to have you, the chat at home, pick how you will modify Teamfight Talk Show today. And as usual, we will have Frodan go through these.
All right, so we at the very top of the show will be giving the ability for chat to influence how our show actually looks. There's some light ones, and then there's some ones that are quite intrusive. We have to build an entire segment for it. So the three that we have for you to vote on in the chat right now, for those who are watching on the live broadcast, is one, Cutthroat, in the honor of Noster, who I know loves to banter with friends. The guest has to roast another TFT player for 30 seconds. Two, Irresistible Charm, where everyone has 30 seconds to dress up as fancy as possible. Just a little light one. And then
Mhm.
three, Backfoot with Pop Quiz with the guest. We have a really fun pop quiz this week. So I personally like option three, but that's because I always like quiz segments on our talk show.
Dude, these are kind of hard. Who is this? Is this the Mortog? Is this the Mortog augments? These are kind of
No,
hard, man.
these are all great. Well, the thing is that the augments aren't great for you, the player. They're great for the viewer. That's who we prioritize. So the question is, who are the augments really for? And the answer is it's not for us really. It's
It's
for
for the
them.
viewers. They're having
It's for
fun.
them.
There's only,
That's
I
right.
think we have like another minute or two. So Noster, if you had to choose one of them, which are you voting for right now?
I don't know. I feel like I'm going eighth no matter what I pick.
Okay.
I don't know. Uh, Probably three. I don't know. Three. They're all fine. They're all fine.
You're not intimidated by the idea of a pop quiz?
No, I don't know.
Okay. That didn't sound
How
very convincing.
Well, I don't know.
How good is your
Not
TFT
one.
knowledge? How good is your
Not
TFT
one.
knowledge?
I hope it's good, but I don't know.
Okay.
I hope it's good.
How good is your League of Legends lore knowledge?
Oh, not a chance. Not a
Okay.
chance.
Do you know any lore? Can you share with us any tidbit
Anything
of
from
lore?
Arcane? Anything from Arcane?
Okay, how about anything? Okay, share us a lore bomb from
Batches.
Arcane. Yeah.
Heimerdinger and Echo both are both like the innovator people, and You know what? This is from Arcane.
All right. No, you nailed
right,
it. Yeah,
all right.
slight
You
spoiler
got
there,
it.
but you got it. Yeah, that's fine. All right, they're
Yeah,
from Arcane.
I have never gone out of my way to search anything from.
All right.
All right,
Well, the
we'll keep that
results
in mind.
are in.
Oh boy.
What's
The
gonna
results are in.
what's it gonna be? All right, not number 3. Cutthroat. It is
Oh,
Cutthroat.
boy.
Okay, so later in the show, you'll have to roast a different TFT player for 30 seconds. It's not a long time, but you've got some time to think about it. We're not going to do it right now. Don't worry. We'll get to it a little bit later. For now, we've got some news to talk about instead. And as Noster agonizes over that, let's agonize over the minutia of what has happened in the TFT scene in the last 2 weeks or so. And the first thing is going to be the fact that we have a long patch. That's right. 12.5 is going to be around for quite a while. There is a B patch that came in that we're going to talk about in a moment. But first, we're going to talk about some of the news that was released as far as like why a long patch at all. And there was an article that came out. It was informative. And I think it's kind of cool, actually, that we are having a long patch. I've always kind of said that I wish it was a longer time between patches because I feel like things are just starting to get figured out and then it gets changed again, you know? And sometimes it's a change that needs to happen if there was like a clearly overpowered comp or something like that. But a lot of times I feel like the meta is just starting to be explored and then we have to like start all over again, right? So I'm actually pretty hyped that we're having a longer patch break between these two, regardless of the reason. But what do you think about this, Noster? Are you happy to have things be a little bit longer, more time with one patch, or do you like the 2-week cadence?
I think that sometimes in terms of later in the set, I think a longer patch can be a little more detrimental. But I think that right now it's relatively early in the set. People are still trying to figure out the game. So I think that having longer patches is fine because people are still trying to figure things out. Um, Especially that the patch right now for me at least feels pretty good, honestly. It feels like there's a lot of stuff that's viable. So personally I think it's a good thing. Some people might not, but I think it's good.
Okay. How about you, Dan? What do you think? Because the reason is because Riot as a whole, as a company, it seems like they're going to be reflecting on some company-wide stuff, direction, you know, all that kind of corporate stuff corporate people do. But you know, the meantime, is we have a patch for a long time. So what do you think of it?
Yeah, I think that, given that we have had several tournaments now in a row where the patch releases, then you have like 24 hours to play and then you're competing again. It's like a welcome thing. I think regionals in general, more importantly than any other tournament, needs to have a stable patch. And the reality is, when we release a patch so soon, one, there could be a lot of bugs, right? That could be game breaking and abusable, and sometimes like we just have situations where the Colossus armor plating bug happened, where it just didn't work. And so if you got it and offered it a gold tier augment, you just had 2 options out of 3 because you just should not pick it. We need to avoid those kind of situations. So having a long, stable patch, we were a week into 12.5. We got a really big P patch we're going to talk about. That's really good. The second could just be that we want to reduce the amount of variance and really show who is able to understand things and more, and just be less about how quickly were you able to discover something that's really broken and lead to a little bit more degenerate metas. So I'm a big fan of it. I like that Riot's also giving their devs a break. I think the TFT team probably needs a little bit of time to reset and evaluate certain things, just because they've been grinding so hard. It feels like I've been part of at Twitch Esports, for example, or Twitch Rivals. We at one point were putting out like 250 events a year, right? And that just means that like every other day we were like putting out a content piece. It just felt like all of it became noise and we weren't able to kind of ground and center ourselves. So it was really huge that Riot was able to give the TFT team some breather and opportunity to observe what needs to be changed, what's working, what's not. And I think that's really huge for their development team in general.
So I agree with all that. I had another question for Noster too, where as a player, when you've got this long patch, when you know the meta is going to be more figured out, what does that mean to you in a tournament sense? Does it change the way that you approach your preparation for something like that? Do you think the game is going to be more stagnant, or do you think it's going to show just like a higher level of mastery than we've been able to see it at tournaments in the past? Like, in your opinion, how would that affect tournaments?
I think that generally you won't see people being very confused about their spots almost ever in tournament. When they're getting this long of a patch, most people have the 3 or 4 main comps in a patch down almost perfectly, I think. I think for tournament specifically, knowing the weird situational outs that you don't see very often on ladder that are not going to be honed as well um, by the majority of players in a tournament. If you know your weird outs, you can make a big difference from a game that is going very south to a game that you can maybe find some footing with bad a bad board, generally speaking, that is actually good in specific spots that only you can see.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense because that's one thing about the players at like 2020 a comp. It sounds ridiculous, but then you see them do just that, right? Where they have such a deep knowledge of a composition that they know all those weird outs when they need them. And if you have this much time with the patch, you don't need to 2020 something. You're going to have that level of knowledge with theoretically more comps than you would normally. So I think it elevates the level of play. I hope that's what we're going to see. I'm pretty hyped. Anything to add to that, Dan?
I just think that's good that we're getting different types of cadences, right? Like TFT is a game that people argue changes too often, right? For the casual competitive players, it's like they just when you have things nailed down, it feels like they patch. And I know a lot of players who like to play 3 to 4 times a week, which is still a lot, but not as much as some of us nerds who grind every day for multiple hours. It's great to have like a long form patch sometimes, just to mix it up. So good stuff from Riot, and I'm excited to talk about the B patch.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about 12.5B, just dropped a couple days ago, just yesterday, actually, I believe. And so this was big. There was a lot of changes. Some of the reroll compositions that have been fairly dominant came down. Things like enforcers were nerfed a little bit. Some of the things that needed a little bit of a boost, like bodyguards, got brought back up again. They said in the article the goal was to increase the variety of compositions that were viable. My initial impression, I haven't played like a ton of games on the speed patch yet, but my initial impression is that it does seem like things are a little bit more open. But Noster, I've no doubt you've played more games than me. What have you been noticing as far as the difference in this patch between 12.5 and 12.5B?
Not much. It seems like a really good patch overall, in my opinion. They seem to have fixed a lot of the stuff that was a little bit too good and brought up a few of the things that were arguably a little mediocre. But I think that Strikers and Ashe are the 2 things that are really standing out to me. Ashe feels way weaker than what she did feel before the patch. And Irelia and Sivir feel way better because they didn't get touched. And yeah, Strikers seem very good right now because they just did not get touched at all, and everything that seemed to have a good matchup into Strikers got nerfed a little. But yeah, that's my initial read on the meta.
All right, Dan,
I would agree with that. I think a lot of people have understood that Irelia is a really effective champion currently to build around. For one, she's really flexible, right? You can still play the Innovator core. A lot of people love playing Innovators. It's really straightforward and simple. You just play the 5 core units, then flex around either the Scrap, the Socialites, or the Strikers, or whatever top end you're hitting, right? I think one of the secret big winners of this patch is Jhin. I think the combat slowing down and a lot of power reducing means that Jhin has a little bit more time to set up. And the only problem is that Irelia kind of destroys a lot of these skill shot champions. So you're talking about Jhin, you're talking about Ahri, you're talking about people that just need to hit things that don't target. Irelia dodges a lot of it. And this actually even goes back to maybe a design philosophy in 6.5 in general, because multiple champions do this. Kha'Zix does this. Zeri does this. It just feels like any kind of skill shot based champion is going to have a bad time to find consistency in 6.5. They can totally pop off. I'm just saying that it's just hard to have the streamlined results that you're looking for in AD carry. And that's why you play AD, by the way. You play AD to have consistent DPS output. You play AP to go for these big burst heavy moments to try to wipe the field, unless you're playing Renata, which ironically seems to be the only consistent AP comp right now that isn't like mutant dependent or reroll dependent. So it's a very interesting spot. I think, obviously it's the first like day and a half of the patch, so we're still kind of figuring things out. But overall, if you're figuring out like one comp or one champion that you really want to learn in depth, I would say Strikers with Irelia and Sivir Flex is probably the most consistent currently.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way. And you hit on something that I want to talk about too, which is the speed of combat in the rounds. Like we just got done with Innovation Cup, and I think the speed at which rounds tended to finish in 6.5 and in 12.5 specifically was kind of on full display. And so characters like Jin that took longer to set up, characters like Ari, although Ari was okay, but still, you know, you really need a pretty insane front line to make sure she's got room. You need like Deep Syndicate online in a lot of cases, or big crazy 6 Arcanists like capped boards. But I would also like to see things slow down, because the slower things are, the more comps become viable, because then carries that operate in different ways, you know, faster or slower, can sort of keep up, basically. Have you noticed, Noster, the length of rounds, the length of fights slowing down at all, in your opinion?
I mean, I think that they brought a lot of power out of a lot of units, so I think naturally it's just going to become a little slower. But I think that the main issue is that just there's so much either negation or just ignoring front lines, like Talon, Draven, Irelia building Last Whisper almost exclusively, Kha'Zix, all these units just completely ignore frontline and just seem to just make frontline vanish. Um,
Hmm.
like if you were watching Braum in set 6, it felt like there was so much supporting him, and it didn't really feel like Braum would, except for sometimes by like fringe Fiora cases, just vanish. But right now, if you just watch a Braum, he'll just maybe cast once sometimes, and sometimes he just doesn't even cast a 2-star. Um, but yeah, the front lines just seem to vanish very quickly, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Like set 6 definitely had their backline access, right, with Shaco, Akali, and a couple of other variations. Like Lux technically just kind of like went past your front line very
Yeah.
often. But in 6.5, it does feel like the mobility of champions that we're talking about, including backline access, makes frontline a little bit less consistent. And in general, like I think that right now, currently, the biggest issue that I take is that the previous patch felt really good for the first time in a long time to roll at every level interval. It felt really good to roll at five if you really need to, obviously for reroll, but 6, 7, 8, and 9 just felt super fluid. And I think one of the really unsung heroes for this was Twin Shot. I know Noster actually can agree because Twin Shot was like his favorite way to kind of play the mid game. And I think what Twin Shots really represented was a lot of flexibility of how to build mid game boards, because you could stabilize probably a little bit too easily on Twin Shots, but it also gave you a lot of flexibility with, do you want to play 2, 3, 4? Is it something you want to re-roll? Do you want to just play it as an item holder? And because of Lucian, Corki, and Gangplank's versatility, you can hold a wide range of items. And so it kind of created like a ton of mid-game flexibility that feels a little bit weaker now because they got nerfed. So I really want mid-game to matter more. And what I worry about right now is we're going to go back into like a greed into a 4-1 roll down type meta. And I don't want that to be like an Irelia or like whatever 4-cost lottery at that point. Because the game, outside of the reroll dominance in the previous patch, I really like this aspect of TFT because it hadn't happened for a couple sets. We pretty much ignored a lot of mid game for like past 2.5 sets.
Yeah, it's it feels like the game is healthier in terms of just like you said, the regular flow, as long as the mid game is a little bit stronger too. Because we all remember, like, I think it was like set 4 where it was really like the greed until 4-1, and then just kind of see what you get, you know, look for that chosen, and then kind of go from there. And that kind of, you know, one track method of play was really fun for some, but again, I think TFT needs to kind of be able to appeal to a broad range of skill sets. But so the question is, when we all come down to it, is this going to be, once it's more figured out, is this going to be a good patch for NA regionals, or is it not going to be? Let's just make some predictions here. Noster, good or bad for NA regionals?
I don't know. It's tough to say. It's really early on in the patch.
That's the point of making wild predictions.
But
That's how this works.
If I had to say, I think it'll be a good patch. I think there's a lot of comps that are good. Although the one thing I will say is I'm kind of scared that Gnar early is a little too good right now. I feel like Gnar. I feel like in my games today, every single time I saw someone get dropped Gnar or have a Gnar 2 in the mid game, it was just insta streak. But other than that, I think it feels like a good patch. Other than that, I think we're fine.
Okay, Dan, what do you think?
I have a couple of ideas that I'm labbing out right now, which seem promising, because if it ends up working out, it's a counter to the current meta, and then that will but it's not without weaknesses, because I know how to beat the strategy that I'm trying to lab out, which will create a really healthy dynamic, right? Because you don't want things to be rock, paper, scissors, and TFT, but you want to have the optionality of being able to choose different lanes. So the reason why I'm not releasing it is because I want to have a couple more confirmations of it, and we're going to have another episode by the time it rolls around. But right now, I think that the patch is going to be good. I think it's going to be good. I think it's definitely better than where it was in the previous patch, because the previous patch, it was pretty correct to just play reroll no matter what you did.
It felt that way.
And I think that's why a lot of players who like to flex got squashed on day one, because they just they weren't willing to reroll as much, and that's always a weakness when that's the top comp in the game.
I'm glad Noster brought up Gnar, because like that's a champion that I know they wanted Gnar to be the AD carry for Yordles and Corki is the AP carry for Yordles. But we saw during the tournament, like Appy is like won a game with 3-star Gnar. Like Gnar was already a champion that under the right crazy circumstances could be really good. And now with just the way things have changed, the things that came down especially, I feel like Gnar may be like one of our new overlords, and also a striker too. So it kind of plays into what's going to be strong naturally. So it almost seems like strikers, I think, have like 3 different carries. And Irelia and Sivir, Irelia specifically, might be the best way to go. But in a pinch, if you hit a lot of Gnars, you have the items on him, and you're getting some socialite hexes active, like he might not be a bad way to go too, at least maybe to top 4. But that's something that I wanna mess with more, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But onward to the next segment, which is our augment segment. It's time.
Boy.
The reckoning has come for Noster to roast one of his fellow peers in the TFT professional scene with our cutthroat augment. So the question first is, who will the target be, Noster? Have you decided?
I think I would be out of line if I did anyone except Ren. Ren TFT. I think I would be out of line if I did not go after him.
All right.
Okay. I was expecting DQA a little bit as well.
Nah.
He's afraid of DQA.
All right. When you start, we'll put the timer up.
Yeah, wait. I've got to collect my thoughts here. Oh man, I'm not good at roasting people. All right.
Everyone's got to start somewhere.
Do we have a hip hop beat? Do we have a hip hop instrumental beat in the background?
I'm not doing a flow.
Can you beatbox? I can't. I don't know.
Ren's LP will never be 4 digits. Ren's copium will always be 4 digits. This guy is a fast 8 one-trick. You can't play the game. The only good thing about this guy is his emotes, and even them are kind of mediocre.
Whoa.
Wow. That was just mean-spirited. I like it.
I mean, hey,
it was just straight up insults. It was just straight up insults.
TFT Ren Young is a good emote, okay?
I like this man's whole career.
Good emote.
Wow, how are you gonna do that to him?
I don't know. I'm not good at roasting people. I kind of feel Poggo.
No, I like it. I like it.
All right, one specific.
You're good. You're good at roasting the patch if that's what you want to talk about too.
Yeah, no.
There you go. All right. Well, there. Yeah. Somebody click it and send it to them. Yeah.
That was mediocre.
Somebody clip it. It's okay. It's on the internet forever now.
It's the roast was mediocre, like Ren's emotes.
Oh.
All right.
I'm not
got
out.
him.
I gotta say, that's right.
I got your back.
Well, that was the augment. All right. Thanks for playing along, Noster. At the end of the day, like you are a winner for actually going through with it. We appreciate that. Just you just lock the windows tonight. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah,
make
I feel
sure
like
everything's
I'm
locked.
this.
No one can get in if they might be angry at you if there's something they heard on the internet that you might have been involved in. I don't want anything bad to happen. This is why we do this. Yeah. All right. Well, now let's go to everybody's favorite segment. It is Agree. Noster is like one of the most well-hydrated people I've ever met. By the way, did you see the size of that?
I tried some salty pasta.
Was that
just some really salty pasta?
Oh, so you need the water then? Is
yeah,
that?
No, I do.
That looked like one of those water heating kettles, though. Is it? Are you drinking straight from the water heating kettle?
It's a water bottle.
Why is it
a normal water bottle?
That is not a normal water bottle.
But it's just a water bottle.
It looks like
a water bottle.
But the way you reacted tells me I'm not the first person to think that.
That's a weird skin for a water bottle.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
how much RP did you pay for that?
I cannot.
I mean, vote in. Can we get a vote in chat? Does it look like a regular water bottle or a water heating kettle?
Right.
I know which way that one's gonna go. Well, anyway, we need to agree with that. Oh, there we go. Agree number one is Noster's water bottle. Easy agree for me. Frodan, what do you think?
This is the fastest disagree I've ever seen. Oh, clearly, the man is drinking just from a water bottle.
Wow.
I don't know
Frodan likes to stay on the good side.
I'm pretty sure they pass those around at the LA marathons, you know?
Okay, maybe I'm not as experienced. See, here's my water thing here. It's like one of those 32-ounce ones where you can like track how much you're drinking during the day.
Yeah, I just like this one because of how big it is. I couldn't find any other big ones that were like this, and this is the biggest one I could find, so it just is what it is.
All right. You could just get like a 5-gallon bucket with like a hose too.
This is the state. This is the state of TFT competitors. They have to drink out of a kettle from their kitchen because they can't afford water bottles.
Yeah. If
Riot, please.
We need to put more into this scene. Save our pro gamers drinking accoutrements. I don't know if that's the right word. But anyway, let's move on to agree. The TFT esports community needs to expect less from Riot. Oh, this is interesting timing. Expect less from Riot and do more for themselves. Noster, agree?
This is a big disagree. The fact that we still don't have a spectator client after being promised it really inhibits you from even being able to potentially run things yourself, along with the fact that, I mean, it's really hard to run things when it's just not set up well for tournaments, I don't think, in my opinion, at all. So big disagree. Like, we should expect more from them, honestly.
All right. Frodan, what do you think?
I agree and disagree with half the statements. So I agree that we should be doing more, but I don't think that we should be expecting less from Riot. I think Riot, and just having worked with other developers in the past, I've had some experience, working with in other games in esports, and Riot definitely cares a lot, especially their developer team. But Riot also likes to brag a lot. They like to talk about how they're the most player-focused company in the world, and that's what their goal is to be.
Esports.
DoA has told me on multiple accounts that he's heard them basically claim that they, or basically like imply that they created esports. And I mean, they're not necessarily, they're not necessarily wrong about how much impact they've had, right? Like League of Legends esports is still going on, very strong, and they're doing great with Valorant, and it's really cool to see how Riot's growing. That being said, it's just weird, and this is something that we'll talk about later on as well, but it's such a weird blemish on their account to see how they're treating some of these smaller communities just because they're not filling out stadiums worth of screaming fans doesn't mean that it's not worth investing more into. So in terms of what should we expect from Riot, we should expect more because they want to have it all. They want to have their cake and eat it too, and right now, it doesn't feel like right. But what can we do in response? I mean, it's the same thing as anything. In a game of TFT, focus on what you can control, not what you can't. You got the 3 augments, just make do with what you got. Same capacity here. It feels like we have no augments with it when it comes to the esports community. So we got to make something happen and do things ourselves. And that's what, people like me and DoA are doing. That's what hopefully some of the other community organizers are doing. I don't want to continue anymore. This is just turning into my own rant session, so I'm just gonna.
No, it's and I think you're totally validated. I'm going to I'm going to disagree as well for similar reasons. One is that the developer does not create the esport community. The fans create the esports community, right? And so a lot of the things that make that grow need to come from the fan side. So there is a lot of responsibility on that side to make things. That said, the spectator mode is a big thing. We do not have a spectator mode. There is a very bare bones one on the tournament realm that helps nobody, honestly. It is okay for our broadcast to get like a clear image of what's happening in the game, but for people like me that would love to do like weekly King of the Hill things that I would cast on my channel, or for anyone that wants to create more events, I can't do that because I can't make that on the tournament realm. You know, we can't, if I want to do something on my side, I either have to aggregate all the stream views, which I am not able to do as a single individual, and or I have to play in them and actually be in the lobby so you can see the game. So the fact that we don't have that spectator mode, we don't have the tool, does hamstring the community from being able to make all the things they want to. So we absolutely do need that ASAP. It's ridiculous that we don't yet, frankly. And I would say until we do have something like that, don't put any videos at the beginning of your world championships talking about how you're so great providing things for the players and growing esports, all right? Those videos make me sick, whether they're in League of Legends or TFT.
Wow.
Like, you know the ones I'm talking about. Honestly, like, I'm sorry if I'm kind of going off a little bit here, but like every like big Riot event before that, they have like a 10-minute video where it's like just people, you know, side lit, like sitting in a chair looking off like this. They're like, we really love our players, and it's great that we're able to do so much for them. Riot's really taking esports to the next level, like that kind of stuff. Like, come on, you don't even have a spectator mode for TFT. Like, nah. So, all right, I'm done with that. That some you know, I've been you know, if you've been watching Twitter, I've been like venting about some other things and some other esports today. It's coming out a little bit on the TFT side too, but that's where we're at. We want to do more for your game. We want to grow your community more. So give us the basic tools with which to do so. That's all we're asking. But we'll leave it there.
Right.
Agree question number one. Chat agrees as well, where, yeah, again, community should do things, but whatever. We're going to move on. Question number two.
We are doing things. We are doing things.
We are doing things, exactly. All right.
Soon.
12.5 patch is actually a good meta, and complaints about reroll are overblown. This is a little bit outdated now because the B came out, but we'll roll with it anyway. Noster, agree?
I think that relatively, in my opinion, it felt like a fairly enjoyable reroll meta, except for some cases of rat, but it felt like it was kind of healthy. There was maybe one Ashe player, maybe a Syndra player, maybe a rat player in each lobby, but it wasn't every game by any means, and it didn't feel completely overpowered at all. It felt like it was a very healthy meta in general, I think, last patch. So I think it was definitely overblown. I would agree that
agree.
All right, so it's an agree.
The complaints are overblown.
All right. Frodan, agree?
I agree. I think that the big problem wasn't the 3 stars. The big problem was the 2 stars. Now, the big problem was some games you saw Ashe 2 be able to just do way too much damage, and even like Fast 8 sometimes even go beyond that, right? Or you just saw like Syndra 2 put out way too much damage, or even just like watching the way reroll also fed into each other just visually looked off. There's a problem that TFT and auto battlers might eternally struggle with. It might just be a flaw within the genre that they have to overcome somehow, but the more people reroll, the better reroll gets. And part of the problem with the previous patch was that there were so many different approaches to reroll with a combination of augments like Double Trouble or Triforce or anything else that helps you. That just makes it even better to reroll. So if someone's going for the GP Lucian reroll, that means that you can go the Senna Morgana reroll. If someone's going for Talon Syndra, that meant that you could be doing Yordle stuff a lot easier. There's just like a lot of different ways that people were slicing it. And there was just some lobbies that looked wrong. It was like 6 people having like 4 3-stars. And it just looked kind of nuts. But that's because they all feed into each other. So I agree. I think the meta was actually quite diverse. Even reroll had capped top end. You saw a lot of reroll struggle to go beyond top 2, top 3 because one player who like decided to just play normal flex ended up capping out really high. And every tier cost had like viable carries, and every tree had multiple ways that you had out. So overall, I thought it was a pretty good patch. Just some things were kind of broken, but I really like the philosophy of the B patch tuning everything down as a big step. So overall, I think that it was a pretty solid meta. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites, but it was pretty good.
Yeah, I'll agree with this one too. I think we saw some pretty good evidence of this over the course of the weekend with the Innovation Cup too, where we did see reroll be very, very dominant on day number 1, and throughout the tournament, like Dan said, the Ashe build sometimes would just be kind of unbeatable. But over the days 2 and 3, we did start to see less reroll and more people playing around 4 costs, 5 costs, some mercenary stuff coming in, some twin shot coming through, even some 6 Arcanist stuff. So I think things opened up a little bit on their own in that kind of microcosm of the Innovation Cup. So on the ladder, it's a similar thing, right? Where you need to be able to read your lobby and say, all right, is this a reroll lobby? Which there certainly were a lot of, and like Dan said, there was a lot of ways to enable that. But it doesn't have to be that way. So I think there was probably a more robust meta underneath what the reroll reaction kind of told people. But I also agree with that patch B sort of takes away a little bit of that via numbers. And so we should get a little bit more of that variety just from the B patch now. So that's fine. That's good. Let's move on to, and chat disagrees. Interesting. So chat, is,
they hate reroll.
Not agree with that. All right, they don't like
They
reroll.
hate
Okay,
it. They hate the twitches. The twitches.
Yeah,
the
chat got
rats.
jumped on one too many times by Rat 3.
They say they don't like reroll, but they're playing it. We know they're playing it. Yeah.
Which is
I know
which
what
is
you're playing,
funny
chat.
because the B patch of Twitch reroll was like weaker than the when it was actually the best reroll comp, but it still was too strong, and it's still viable even on this patch.
Yeah, you can still
mean-
play it. Yeah.
I'm pretty certain the issue with Radis's auto attack damage. His ultimate doesn't even feel. His ultimate feels like it's just another auto attack. It's felt like that. It's like his auto
Piercing
attacks are
part.
the issue, in my opinion.
It's still
Yeah.
good. You can still play it.
It's
Green
like,
number
it's like talents, like talents. Really not the ability. It's like how much AD damage he's doing. Yeah. Anyways, continue.
Anyway, green question number 3. Tournaments right after a patch are just as valid because it tests other skills besides executing solved metas a week later. Kind of a long rambling question, but you get the idea,
So,
Noster.
I'll agree, but I'll also disagree because I
Okay.
think that patches or tournaments happening right after patches is a good thing for players to showcase how fast they're able to learn new things, how fast they're able to pick up on what's good, what's bad, what changed. But I will also disagree because I do think that the amount of time that we are given to pick up on things is not enough. It feels like one day is not really enough for even the fastest learners to really get a comprehensive grasp of what they should be playing. And I think that for tournaments, especially in TFT, you should be seeing players who know what they're doing in most of the time. But you'll see players just get really confused in tournament on new patches because they just haven't had enough time to figure out what's good. So I think that it's kind of in a kind of bad spot where it's one day is not quite enough time, but I think that some cases a week can be a little too much time. But I don't know. That's just my feeling as someone that's played in both.
Okay.
But
No, that's
just my
valid.
opinion.
All right, that's interesting. Dan, what do you have to say?
Man, Noster's straddling the fence so much he could be a caster.
Yeah, I was gonna say, trying to keep everybody happy. It's an admirable trait.
The answer to this is yes. They are valid just because they don't necessarily test the kind of skills that I think a lot of players who want like a solved meta or like a stable meta where they can understand what they're playing around. That being said, I prefer tournaments a week after the patch. I just want to put that out there. So while I agree with this statement, I would like more time because I think ultimately I watch tournaments for high level play. I don't want to watch tournaments for other players to struggle, if that makes sense. I think preparation is the lack of preparation adds a layer of variance that I don't think TFT needs, if that makes sense. TFT already has a lot of variance inherently, and to add even additional layers to make things more complicated and difficult is unnecessary. We could also go through extraordinary lengths to try and make tournaments in TFT more physically difficult, more mentally challenging, more emotionally loading. It's like we could do all these different things, but
Sure.
I think there's enough already. So let's just put it a week later. That said, I still agree. I think they're just as valid.
All right. I'm actually going to disagree with this. I don't think they're as valid, actually. And the reason is because you've got a tournament that favors one specific skill set that is just as important to have a week after the patch as it is a day after the patch, you could argue, because the people that are really good at adapting to a new patch should, in theory, also be the people that are really good at adapting to whatever meta develops too, and finding new creative ways to play around that. You know, if they're creative and problem solving in a short time, you'd think that skill isn't going to go away a week after. It'll still be there. The only difference is that a week later, you'll have all the players that have been able to master it and take a little bit longer. So I do think tournaments that are a little bit farther after the patch are going to be more valid, because you're going to have more players playing at their best, and that makes a better tournament. So I'm going to disagree with that one. Chat agrees, though. Chat
knows what's up.
Valid. All right, maybe. Do we have a fourth one today? Let's see. We do not.
I think we're good. I think
that's it. Well, that is agree. Everybody's favorite segment. Now let's move on to everybody's favorite segment. It is esports. That's right. We had the Innovation Cup this weekend. I had a ton of fun casting it. I know Dan did too. This was, I don't know. I just love TFT tournaments. I love seeing specifically how the meta changes throughout the course of the weekend. You know, in my mind, nothing's ever going to beat the like multi-week, multi-patch Giant Slayer series we used to do back in the day as far as like skill testing. But these events, 3 days, 6 games, like it's pretty good. It's not terrible. So and we saw a lot of innovation. I think we saw 6 Arcanists. We saw Nar win a lobby. We saw Twin Shot, you know, come up as well. It was great. So Noster, tell us about your tournament experience from start to finish. It was probably not the tournament you were hoping to have, but how was it holistically?
Well, I enjoyed playing in it. I definitely did enjoy playing in it. Going into the tournament, I had been grinding a lot of games. I really wanted to do well here. I felt like I was in the best form I'd been in a long time. I felt like I was really at the top of my game going in. So, I mean, I said to myself, if I didn't make day 2, I was probably going to take a break from TFT, because I had some expectations for myself. But after I made day 2, I really wanted to make day 3. I was kind of disappointed that I didn't. But I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes you can't get all the cards to come out your way.
Yeah, for sure. If you could, have you gone back and digested it a little bit? Have you kind of identified something that you think you could have done a little bit better?
Yeah, there were 2 games the second day. The triple prismatic game, I had no clue what was going on that game. I'm sure I could have played it better. I haven't actually watched it back. I'm sure I could have done something differently. Because I played some weird Inno Jace board that was not good at all. But then there was another game where I think I gave 1 point away because of bad Zephyring.
Oh, and that's a tiebreaker difference.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but I think that after it happened and I digested it for a little, I didn't want to be too hard on myself, because most players, I think even the best players in a tournament will probably give 1 point away through some difference.
At least.
For sure.
Yeah, so I said to myself, I probably gave away 2 or 3 points that I probably could have gotten if I played a little better, but I wasn't too hard on myself, because I feel like I played very well.
So let's flip it then. What do you think you're particularly good at this tournament?
I feel like my advantage is that I knew everything that's really good. I knew all the comps that were going to be played. I knew how to play them. I knew all the angles. I feel like I got fed some Inno angles, which was definitely my weakest comp in the tournament. But I knew that comps. I knew all the reroll comps. I knew that Draven and Twin Shot specifically were really underplayed in Challenger for how strong they were.
Okay, wait, can I just call you out right here? How are Innovators your weakest comp, man? Like, come on, it's the easiest comp to play out of all of them.
I mean, yes, but like, I mean,
I just
don't
personal
get it.
kryptonite.
So, you know what? It is what it is. Personal weakness.
I think it's because it sometimes this actually happens a lot with TFT players in particular, is that they go so in depth with the hard stuff that sometimes the basic stuff throws them for a loop, because it's so much simpler than they're making it out to be. It's, you know, you don't have to flex a lot, just play the basics.
I think with Innos, what I really struggle with, in general right now is playing a lot of mix and match. And always when you go level 8, there's a lot of options. You can play Irelia, you can play Sivir, you can play Jay's carry, you can play Jhin.
Yep.
And I think that a lot of other comps just kind of naturally the carries play themselves. If you're playing Twin Shots, you know what you're going to play. If you're playing Draven, you know what you're going to play. If you're playing Deboner more specifically, you know it's either Draven or Zeri, right? But I think sometimes when I play Innos, I get a little dizzy about my carry options, and I just kind of, you know.
No, that's logical. Yeah. No,
it is. Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. I'm giving Noster a little bit harder time. But it's just, oh man, it's just I just see so many people who have like 5 innovator plus any 2-star carry. It's like, oh, they're top 4. It's like, but that's solo queue, and of course, tournament environments are completely different. So I only can speak from the caster pulpit.
Exactly. It is a high pulpit indeed. Let's check out who qualified through to regionals so far. There's still more spots on the line. There's a couple from Challenger Series, I believe, coming up this weekend. I think am I right that there's a couple from Ladder, or is that not the case? I'm trying to remember all the.
Yes, there's 2 from
Ladder, 2 Challenger.
Okay,
I
there's
thought
2
so,
from
yeah.
Challenger Series. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, it's looking like GV8 +1, I think, on Ladder right now. I haven't checked though. After the
I will check right now.
He's pretty high up there. Yeah, I was looking at it just a little bit earlier this afternoon. I don't remember exactly what spot he was on, but he was definitely like top 5 if I remember right.
Because Setsuko, I think, has like the rank 1 lockdown, but he's already qualified, right?
Yes, Setsuko qualified already via mid set.
Yeah, he's already qualified. So
and then the next highest is Goose.
Yeah, it's Goose and someone else.
So Dish Soap's already qualified. Robin's already qualified. Ramkev has the option, but he said that he doesn't want it. And you are right behind him, but you already qualified. So
you're already qualified, yeah.
So then the next highest person is called Kurum Snapshot Account. But I will reassure you that this is not Kurum X.
Yeah, they never are. It's just one of the many Kurum army, you know.
Yeah,
they're out there.
Win trade accounts.
Occasionally,
classic win trade accounts.
Growing every set. Yep.
I will say one player who has started taking it a little bit more seriously that I'm excited to make a miniature comeback, assuming it is Nubal. Nubal's actually been rising up, playing a lot of solo queue games. His form is looking better and better. I'm actually starting to worry about him. In set 6, I was not worried at all. Nubal was so free in set 6 because he played on mobile, so you couldn't reposition. So he put Yone in just one angle, and the only thing he could do was flip boards, and it was so predictable. Now Nubal was really scary. Now I don't actually want to play against him. So we'll see how well he does. I don't think he can qualify Snapshot. He's still a little bit too far behind, but Challenger Series, let's go Nubal.
It's possible.
Yep, but he does look scary.
Yeah,
he does look scary on ladder.
Yeah. Well, let's check out some other players out. If we look ahead to Worlds down the road for set 6, we did have an open qualifier for EMEA, and I don't follow the scene super closely. I know some of the really big names like AKA Wonder and all that. Any of you have anything to add to this?
It was just more like we don't. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that we don't really talk about EMEA. It feels like Teamfight Talkshow is like almost exclusively North America, but at times we have like OCE members on. We have other people from Europe, so kind of want to just give a shout out to the EU scene in general. And the reason why I wanted to feature it this week was that I think that EU started off really rough with their competitive scene, but slowly but surely they've really pieced things together. And now I think a lot of the players who are participating actually kind of like the way things are structured. And they have their own dedicated website. So risinglegends.gg is how you can find stuff for EMEA. And like overall, I think they're actually doing great stuff. Hope that it can come, a little bit better for North America as well. Because sentiment isn't nearly as positive, but piece by piece, step by step.
This is our set.
Man,
so
I just imagine.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You're the guest.
The guy. Imagine being I-beam. If I thought I got BG, imagine being that guy and looking at the leaderboard.
6-way tie.
Oh, that would not
the 6
be a good
30-point players. Yeah.
It is the downside of open cups when this happens in Hearthstone and Magic and other games that like Swiss tiebreakers are just obnoxious, where you have like 13 people with the same record and only 6 of them go through. It just feels like really bad when that happens. There's not really an easy way to solve this, especially in a game of TFT, because you can't really just play like a 1v1 as tiebreakers. So I guess this is just going to be par for the course, which is like when you play TFT tournaments, you just got to expect that on average, every few tournaments, you're just going to get screwed on tiebreakers.
I suppose. Yeah. Well, so speaking of EMEA, we do have a Golden Spatula Cup coming up on March 11th through 14th, as you can see. So if you want to keep track of that, that's where you can do it. I want to keep more track of the Korean scene, actually, but because the only thing we see out of there is Bebe complaining about things. So there's got to be more going on, you know? I'm going to have to do some research into that. But anyway, here you go. Golden Spatula Cup number 3 coming up.
That's right. They also stream on the main channel, twitch.tv/Teamfight Tactics. I know people like Impetuous Panda, Weta, and some other usual folks are casting over there. So, you know, they don't really get it. They don't have their own podcast. So someone's got to announce it for them. Tune in.
There you go. Yeah. EMEA podcast. When? And what language?
Never.
Well, hopefully, maybe someday. Who knows? But yeah, that's it. So there's events coming up all over the world. It's going to be great. So another esports matter we have to attend to are the many numerous twitlongers that have been coming out this week. Now, I feel like we touched on this topic a little bit during the agree section earlier. And I don't want this to turn into like a huge rant. I will try to hold myself back a bit. And because at the end of the day, we like TFT and we want to succeed. So we'll be positive with it. But, you know, we did have some twitlongers come out. One of them was from Ramkev, obviously a person with a lot of reasons to be very upset with the way some recent tournament results have gone for him. You know, said essentially he's not going to participate for the rest of the set now at this point, which is kind of tragic because he's one of my favorite players to watch. But he may be out. We will see. Aegon also put out a twitlonger as well that looked at things more from sort of the business standpoint, not the O-Cage business standpoint, but the actual business standpoint of, you know, resources being allocated to TFT and what that could mean. So there were a couple different looks from different players. Obviously, Soju had one out there that Mort replied to as well. But, you know, Noster, when you see all this stuff coming out, have you read all this? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I've read all 3 of them. I think that they're all worded really well, but I think that Aegon's in particular is something that you would show somebody at Riot and they would maybe heed a little more than just some other, you know, competitive player complaining about not getting, you know, the tournament results they want and just can say that that's just the frustration coming out. The fact that somebody that's really doesn't have that much invested in the scene to begin with is saying these things about the game state and the business of it, I think really speaks volumes, in my opinion. But I don't really have much more to add to what they actually discussed. I think the 2 of them, I think Ramkev and Aegon specifically, really pointed out most of the issues right now. The only thing I would think I could add is just more monetization. I think that's the easiest fix for a lot of the problems, or a lot of the solutions, or a lot of the issues for solutions to the problems that we have right now is just more monetization. It feels like it's the only way to really fix a lot of the formatting in terms of maybe increasing it so that we can play more games, so that we're not just playing a bunch of games for the same amount of money, so that we have a more fair, a longer term experience with a better EV. It just feels like it's more monetization, in my opinion.
Yeah, there was also the arguments, of course, to like, you know, why would someone be incentivized to play and not just AFK if they knew they're out of the tournament already? I was thinking about this, and I'd like to see like placement bounties or something where, you know, you win a certain amount of money based on your placement in a game, no matter what your overall points in the tournament are, just to continue to incentivize people to continue to try, you know, even if they're in that position, because at least they can walk away with a little bit more, things like that, perhaps. But in my mind, and I'll let you talk next, of course, Dan, but like in my mind, a lot of it does come down to there's so little ability right now for the community to create things around TFT. The best that TFT competitive has ever been, and I've said this many times, is, and I said earlier today, is GiantSlayer series, when we had this long tournament where we had play nights every week for multiple weeks across multiple patches, and then that led into a playoffs, and that led into a final lobby then. So players got a lot of games over a lot of patches to prove themselves, and it was great. You can see all these wonderful emerging stories. The difficulty is that it's so hard to run tournaments like that because you need to, aggregate stream views, or you have to jump through all the hoops to do something on the tournament realm, which still isn't the greatest spectator experience for TFT, and we're still figuring that out, obviously. So I think while I would love to see more investment into TFT from Riot, the first place I want to see that money invested in is a good spectator mode that's accessible by everyone, so we can actually make things like we want to in this community. But that's my thing. I'll get off my soapbox now, and I'll let Dan get on his. Go ahead.
There's honestly not enough time to kind of go through everything that I want to with this subject. So I'll start at the very beginning, which is I'm glad that they care enough to be vocal. Because what ends up happening after this stage, I just want to say this very clearly, especially to people who work for Riot and think that it's, rightfully so. It is a lot of like whiny players complaining. And Ramcap even said that in his tweet longer, like, yes, like, please prove me, this whiny, arrogant player, wrong. Is that this is the stage before people stop caring and disengage entirely.
100%.
And it's like the almost last final warning shot before players just give up and then disengage. And people mistake negativity and toxicity as the worst state of energy to be in. It's actually not. It's the second to worst. The worst is apathy, and we're very closely getting to that point. The saddest state is not Ram Kev's rage or Soju's twit longer and complaints. It's actually Kiyun. I think Kiyun, the fact that he just has stopped caring and trying entirely, and you can just hear how sad he is whenever he talks about like save competitive, hurts me more than any of the complaints about these twit longers. And they post these twit longers because they care. So I just want to say that to start things off. Second of all, as much as we can kind of go things down, break point by point in Ramkev's thing, the most important statement that resonated with me for Ramkev was this sentence from his initial outlook, which is funny because I feel like this should be his TLDR. Is Ramkev has said, quote, "What I have come to conclude is that tournament formats themselves do nothing to promote or to demonstrate the skill level of these players, and in many cases are detrimental to this goal." And so what Ramkev means with his statement is that tournaments aren't the best way for you to feel a competitive outlet in TFT. And that is a really sad thing because that's what competition is all about. These tournaments are really not about money. Money certainly helps because it patches up a lot of the negative feelings about certain things. But in reality, we play competitive TFT because we love the game and we want to see the quality of the game be pushed at the highest level. And there's so much beauty to unpack at the top level of Teamfight Tactics. And the players themselves don't feel like it's being represented or demonstrating because of that. And I think that was the biggest takeaway I had from Ramkev, which is that one of the players who proved himself through the competitive system, right? Ramkev broke out because of Set 4, is now saying that it is not something that he personally enjoys or can recommend to other people, despite doing it himself. And that is really sad to see. The rest of his points, I think, can be nitpicked and argued. Like, I don't really think point structure matters that much, but it seems to be a really passionate subject for him. 1 to 10 versus 1 to 8. I'm sure we can argue about when it's correct. Checkmate, yes, we can argue about when we should do and what not, but that's not what's important. The important part is that these competitive players are dissatisfied with the competitive experience. And if that's the case, if TFT competitive is not about making money, it's not about ROI, it's purely about player experience and ensuring that we retain players, it's not doing that. So we're failing it at a baseline level of what competitive TFT should be, because we're definitely not making money doing competitive TFT. We should at least make it engaging, retain the players, and hype, and it's just none of that right now. In terms of Aegon's, go ahead. I can go on and on and on. So please.
Yeah, we really could. I think that the saddest part is that right now it feels like people are just slowly drifting away, and I think that if nothing is done, it'll just be one person at a time, every month. Maybe it's someone major, maybe it's not someone major, but the ladder just slowly, the most skilled players just slowly seep away to other games that they find interesting. If nothing is seeming to be done for these players, they'll just say, okay, well, if nobody cares about me, then I'll just go find somebody that is willing to support and help the competitive scene of whatever game they might go to next more than somebody that, or a company that is giving hardly any, if any, support. Which
They'll find a
is
better
kind of sad.
competitive experience elsewhere.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll just say that ultimately these Twitlongers, the problem was that a lot of them is that they're not offering solutions. I would say that that's what I respect the most about what Aegon is trying to do. He tries to dive into the actual business side of things. He's talking about SEO, right? Like he's talking about ways that we could be promoting cross-platform. He's talking about different methodologies that we should be evaluating, and he even links certain like talks about how email systems actually work a lot better for gamers than traditional marketing advertisement campaigns. And I just think that like it was a lot more thoughtful. And while on the surface level, I do think that Aegon says a lot of smart things, a lot of them are a little bit more impractical than he's leading on. I just like that that's the kind of discussion that's being driven forward. And so it's really cool to see someone who has stepped away entirely from competitive be able to put forth so much effort. So I just want to give a special shout to Aegon. Very thoughtful, well written, and not really anything to disagree with.
Yeah, it's great. You should definitely go read it if you haven't. And I do want to add one other point to this, that there is a flip side to this. There is a side where it's a be careful what you wish for side. And I think we can look at Overwatch as a great example of that, where the developer decided to put tons of money into the scene, but simultaneously take the ability of the community to make their own tournaments and things away, right? So you had the complete and total takeover. And that clearly has not gone great either. So there is a flip side to this. So there always needs to be a balanced approach to it, where we need to provide the community with the tools to build the esports scene themselves, and we need a developer to support it as well, whether that's monetarily with world championships, kind of the big things, right? You can't have one or the other. We've seen both extremes, neither works. So let's try to get a little bit of balance, not just in TFT, but in esports in general. But that's a whole nother podcast. But anyway, again, this clearly all, like Dan said, comes from a place of love, because we love this game and we want to succeed and we want more people to enjoy it. But sometimes you gotta, kind of get harsh to get people to move. So, here we are, trying to say what needs to be said. But it's time to move on. Time to move on to everybody's favorite segment, which is, are you ready, Noster? It's the NA tier list. That's right. I know you've been working hard. You've been slaving away trying to create the perfect tier list. Here's your chance to show it off to the world. You can put out the names in any order. You can move them around. You know the drill. You've watched the show before. So who's your top 10 right now? This is also the NA regionals.
This is for regionals. This is for regionals.
Yeah.
Oh, for
I forgot that.
Okay,
We should mention that. NA regionals tier list.
Yeah. Okay. I think I have to put Setsuko as one. The guy is he just doesn't make mistakes on ladder. And whilst his tournament play might be a little weaker, I think it's just absolute dominance on the ladder. So I think I have to put Setsuko as one. I think that would be a crime if I didn't put Setsuko as one. He's infinite LP above everyone else, and whenever you watch him, he just doesn't really make mistakes. So I think that's an easy one.
Yeah,
I agree. Power rankings come out this week for TFTPR. I put Setsuko as my number one. I won't tell you what everyone else is, but I agree.
A little teaser there.
Yeah.
Who's number two, or any other number you want to?
So wait, is this people who have only qualified?
Yes, people who are playing at regionals right now.
Only qualified. Okay.
Right.
So, all right.
You could put Goose in there because he's effectively locked in.
All right. Give me. I think this is after this. I don't think I would have done this before Innovator Cup, but I think Appy's I'll put as second. Really impressive tournament.
Number two.
Really impressive tournament, I think, in my opinion.
I agree. And
he's got a little bit to prove on ladder, but I think in terms of tournament, every single time I've watched him, he's done really well. So I think I'll put Appy's as second.
Okay.
All right.
Already spicy list. Spicy Appies.
I don't know. There's a lot of players. I feel like those two, in my opinion, are a little bit above everyone else.
Whoa, gapping already at
not like that, not that much ahead of everyone else.
You're in this field too, by the way. Just want to let you know.
It's true.
Give me. I don't know. I kind of want to put Spencer here, just out of pure respect for what he's done. Even though he's not quite in peak form right now, I think that he's just one of the best players on in the ladder right now. Not right now, but he has been, just proved himself time and time again that he will always show up. I mean, he was playing Lost Ark and he got like whatever place he got, like 11th. He was playing 2 games at once. Like
I don't recommend that, by the way. I don't think that's a recipe for NA to win Worlds, Spencer. I'm just going to tell you right now. Like, I hope if you're serious about it, you're probably not going to do that. Good job doing that. It is impressive, but if you want to be the world champ, I don't think that's gonna work. Just putting that out there.
Give me Robin as 4th. I think the Robin has proved himself as just consistent most of the time. He might not be the guy that is always like dominating any field, but I feel like he's always solid all around. I think he's a solid 4. This mid section might get moved around a little.
Okay,
give me.
That's okay.
I think
time.
Yeah.
I think it's Robin. I don't know. This is tough. This mid section's tough.
Yeah, it is.
Because like players like Solus, I think I would generally put on this list if they weren't playing Lost Ark as their main game.
The Lost Ark disease is strong in the TFT community.
If you put stock in Spencer doing well, despite not having his full attention on the game, you can also put stock in the fact that Solus came basically as unprepared as he could possibly be, and still did okay. Like, he didn't do that badly.
Yeah, I mean, Solus might end up on this list, maybe closer to the bottom, but
okay.
All right. Your name's out there too, Steve.
I like that you said.
I like Goobums here. I like Goobums.
All right. Goobums
I think that Goobums has been kind of similar to Robin. Not really the best maybe in anything, but just really solid all around, I think. Doesn't make too many mistakes. In general, I think very well rounded. So I'll put Goobums as 5. Oh, man, I don't know. Goose is a hard one for me to rate because Goose on ladder is so different than Goose in tournament. Like, I think that he's probably the 2nd, maybe 3rd best ladder player, but in terms of tournament, I feel like he just struggles a lot with his playstyle to rank him highly for a tournament. Which is kind of weird because I think if it was a normal player ranking, you'd probably put him like 4th or 5th just because of how good he is on ladder, but I don't know. That's tough. I don't know. I also like Aniko here. I don't know. I have a hard time getting away from Aniko, I think. I think Aniko is played really well overall. I think his tournaments especially have been really impressive. He seems to show up in tournaments a little bit.
I think Nico's on the rise up for sure, especially.
Yeah, give me a Nico 6
after this weekend. Yeah, for sure.
6 is a little high for me personally, but I think I like that you're thinking about it this way.
I mean, I feel like there's not too many people to choose from. There's only like.
Whoa, you're forgetting a couple of like really important people, in my opinion.
I mean, I don't know how to rate Socks. I mean, probably put Socks here. Give me Socks as 7.
Okay.
Really?
I think it's a crime to not put. Oh, yeah. I think Socks is 7.
And it depends on what form he's going to be, right? Is he?
I don't know. That's it's kind of the same with Solus, right? I feel like they're both really good players, but like I haven't seen them playing that much. But give me Socks at 7. This is a pure respect move because I think that Socks is probably. I don't know. Give me Socks. This might get moved on. Just put Socks at 7 for now.
All right.
You're forgetting one person or 2 people, in my opinion, that I think you're going to go back and be like, oh crap, I need to redo this list. That's just my.
Are you trying to influence this? Dan's
got a tier list. Of course.
Dan's got a tier list coming out tomorrow, and I feel like he's trying to get more agreement from this professional player we have on.
No. I want Noster. Here. I want to help Noster before he embarrasses himself.
Oh, I see. It's done out of love. I understand. Yeah.
All right. I feel like this is. All right. Give me myself at 8.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Glad you made it. Congratulations.
Yeah, I think that's probably where I'd put myself here.
Okay.
Probably around
Top
8,
top
maybe 9.
Okay. Yeah.
Who am I gonna put as 9? Oh man, these are all I think except for I think aside from like Spencer, Appies, and Setsuko, I think the most of the rest of these people on this list are like we're all pretty close to each other, I think, in terms of skill right now. Or not maybe not skill, but in terms of how good we are at the game, more specifically. I don't know. For regionals, it's kind of rough for me to personally rate tournaments because once again, people can end up anywhere. But
They
I'm gonna go with a little bit of a dark horse. Give me Valet. I think Valet
Ooh,
has
all right.
done well at tournaments, and I think that he's got potential.
Vile and Ramkev are 2 peas in a pod. Great players, but their mental, you just never know where their head's at.
Yeah, definitely.
We got one spot left. Could be anyone, but
man.
who do you think it's gonna be?
Is this where Solus goes? You said Solus might be at the bottom of the list.
I feel like all these players. I feel like I could put Pawn up here. I feel like I could put Dish up here. I feel like I could put Asia here, and I feel like I could put Solus here. But I don't know. I don't know who I should put here. I don't know. Who do I think is gonna pop off on at regionals?
Dan's like bouncing around in his seat. Like he clearly knows. Like
who do I think is gonna pop off at regionals?
I have an itch in the back of my neck.
I feel like all of them. I feel like all of them could pop off. Who do I feel in my gut's gonna do well? You know, give me Dish Soap. Give me Dish Soap.
Okay.
All right.
I feel like that's the wild card on this list.
Is there any specific reason, any specific memory of Dish Soap that causes him to grab that last spot?
He's good on ladder, and he's showed up. He's done pretty well in tournaments. Overall this set, so that one I'm not so certain about, but I think that's the wild card. That's the wild card on this list.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, there it is. Is there any?
Is that it? Do I want to move anyone around?
Well, that's what I'm going to ask. Do you want to move anything? Are there any changes you feel compelled to make now that you look at the list in its totality?
You know what? Move Spencer down 2.
Whoa. I thought you said there was a gap.
No, it was Appies and Setsuko. I said there was a gap.
Oh, okay.
Move Spencer down 2, I think. I think that he stands to be ranked 3, but like right as of right now, I think he's probably I'll put him as 5.
Okay.
All right, that's looking pretty good.
Okay, so Robin in 3rd, Goobum's in 4th, and Spencer drops to 5th now. Okay. But that looks good. That's what you're going to go with?
Okay.
Yeah, out of everyone that's qualified already. Oh, wait. I kind of want to put the Goose at 10. Man, I don't know.
Okay.
So Dish Soap gets knocked off entirely, and it's Goose at 10 now.
Man, I don't know. I don't know. You know what? Take Dish Soap off.
He's been eliminated. No, he's been completely eliminated now. All right. Goose
you know what? I don't think I can sleep tonight if I don't put probably the 2nd or 3rd best ladder player right now. So I think that's the list. That's the list. 100%.
100%.
100%. He's locking it in.
All right.
DoA.
All right.
No takebacks.
Dan,
how on earth did
Dan,
you forget
unleashed.
Ramblin'? How on earth did you forget Ramblin' on your
list? Is Ramblin' qualified already?
Yes.
Okay, you know what? Okay, wait. I was not aware.
My boys. I didn't even know my boys could go this high in pitch.
Okay, maybe it's Goose out and Ramblin'. Okay, it's definitely Goose out and Ramblin'.
Ramblin' at 10. Okay.
I don't see him on the list.
Is there anyone else? Is there anyone else?
Milk.
Is there anyone else?
A lot of people would put Milk high on their list right now. In general.
Let me see where Milk is. I feel like Milk's been
Ramablin.
playing fairly well. Okay, it's definitely Ramblin over Goose. I don't know. I feel like Milk's been playing fairly well. Is there anyone else qualified? I'm not aware. I'm not aware.
I thought we had the list, so
You mentioned most of the names that people talk about already. I think a couple of others might be like non-Tom.
Yeah, I might put
DQA.
I might. Okay, move. Okay. This is not accurate then. Move me down to 9. Move Ramblin up to 8. I think take probably Valet off, and put. Oh, that's kind of rough. And probably put Milk. Oh, that's kind of rough. Let me put Milk in at 10.
okay. Our poor
Actually,
producer.
move me to 10. Yeah, I think move me to 10.
You're slowly falling off the list. Are you going to eliminate yourself soon? Like, I'm getting
He's gonna
worried.
put himself
now.
11. Noster 11.
It's too Pogo.
Yeah,
It's
Noster
too
11.
Pogo. Dude, no shot. No shot.
Oh no,
I feel
you
like
gave
right
him a
now,
new meme.
right now we're chilling.
So no Noster 11th. All right.
No.
Okay.
Noster 10th. Noster 10th. All right.
Okay.
Going
I
to
feel like
ladder
I could
accounts
put.
now.
I feel like you could put Non-Tom or Goose where I am, but you know what? Screw it. Screw it.
Yeah, you deserve
All
to be
right.
on that
I like
list.
it, I
This,
like
This
it.
is
this is your
this
list.
is the list.
Show some
This is the
confidence. Yeah. All right.
Let's go.
Noster 10th. Let's do it. All right. Well, there we
Listen,
go.
listen. I would consider also maybe DQA, but I watched this guy 13 streak in tournament and not top 4, so there's no shot. There's absolutely no shot.
There you
There's
go.
no shot this guy's going on this list.
Is locked.
There you go.
Lock it
Locked.
in, DoA.
Locked in. I'm locking it in as best I can. I have no actual power here, but I will lock it in for what it's worth. It's locked. All right. Setsuko, Spicy Appies, Liquid Robin, Goobum, Spencer, Unico, Socks, Ramblin', Milk Guy, and Noster 10th to round out the list. And there you go. There's our NA Regionals tier list. It was a long journey. This could have been like a 3-movie trilogy of getting us there, but we got there in the end. And you know what? That means it's time for everybody's favorite segment. It is the mailbag. Now, while we have Noster 11 answer this question, you in chat can ask questions as well. Noster will pick one and you will get a gift card. So there you go. Get $10, I believe it is. So keep that in mind while he's answering this question. The question is from Discord, Kandaroo. Sorry if I butchered that. How would you define your playstyle and has it changed over the years?
I think that you could probably say that it started out the most like Kerm because I watched a lot of Kerm. That's how I improved a lot. In like set 3 and 4. So I started as a fast 8 player, just like almost exclusively fast 8, really bad at reroll. But recently I've started trying to play more and more reroll because I think it's a valuable out to have. I think it's fast 8 and then it started being reroll is the main things. Is my playstyle.
Okay.
I don't feel like I understand. Can you go into more depth what that means?
So generally streaking early, staying strong early, slamming items, being pretty aggressive, and playing a little more tempo, trying to stay ahead of the lobby, going fast, fast 7-3-5 after the 3rd carousel, pushing tempo, pushing aggression, to try and go fast or 8, to try and save HP early, and then maybe guarantee the top 4 and then play for more. But have recently started to see and try to play more reroll outs in the mid game instead of slamming items, maybe greed items a little more to try and play for the first, because that's another thing I think I have struggled with, to be honest, is winning games. My win rate is probably one of the worst in high challenger. But yeah, that's what I think is my playstyle.
Fair enough.
Okay.
So how would you define your play style and how has it changed?
My play style.
We stall for
my
more
play
questions.
style is well, let's see. It's for a long time it was just learn one AP comp and then go 20-20 and just like grind enough games to get there. Then in set 4, my eyes opened and I played full flex for the entire set and it was great. And then in set 5, I played full flex, and I wasn't very good at it. And in set 6, I pretty much did the same thing. And then 6.5 went back to 2020 Hextech until they nerfed it. And now I'm still relearning how to play the game since then. But there's a lot of options. How about you, Dan? What would you describe as your play style?
My play style. My play style. I don't know. I feel like, you know who would answer this really well? I think Bryce would answer this really well because he watches me play more than anybody. So my play style is quite open. I try to play from every angle as much as I can. And that was actually a weakness of mine. I think the one big lesson that I learned the first time I climbed the Challenger a few sets ago was that I tried too hard to be an intelligent TFT player. One of the most memorable pieces of advice I've ever gotten was from Delicious Milk. He watched me play one game of TFT. He's coached me one time in TFT, and he messaged me after. I've said this a couple times on Teamfight Talkshow, so if you already heard this, I apologize. Milk watched me for one game and coached me, and his big takeaway says, Frodan, you play TFT as if it's a good game. That's your biggest weakness. And for about 15 minutes, I just could not fathom what he was trying to communicate to me. But when I started to really understand when you translate between the lines, because you need a translator for Milk, is that he says that I try to do too many crazy complicated things and I need to just simplify my game plan a lot more. Because I was holding too many items and as a result causing a lot of decision paralysis. I was open to things that shouldn't be in my mind whatsoever, and it's causing me to have really inefficient transitions. I'm not positioning. I'm not thinking about what's important. I'm thinking about what I think is cool. And I think that was something that really shifted my playstyle specifically over this past year. And I'll never forget that advice because every time I feel like I'm getting lost, that's what I do. I simplify my game plan even more. If I'm not climbing,
it's a good idea.
It's because I'm probably getting too fancy. So it's helping.
There you go.
Okay. Anyways, I think we stalled long enough. We stalled long enough.
I think so. I see Noster has picked a question, so we'll have you answer that as soon as it pops up on the screen here. It is.
I picked the which TFT set is the best in your opinion and why. I think that set 6 aesthetically isn't that pleasing, but I think that in terms of actual unit options, there was so much flex, so much opportunity to really showcase player differential that I think it would be criminal to not rate it as 1. I think it was the best set. I think that the augments did wonders for the game. I honestly think augments are probably the best system they've ever introduced. In terms of variance, and I think it would be criminal to not rate it 1. In my opinion, it just seems far and beyond the best set.
Cool.
Yeah. Hell yeah. And
I'd be inclined to agree. Yeah.
Business analysts agree as well. I think set 6 has been a resounding success. I think the only thing you can argue more is set 1 because that was such a special moment in TFT's
kickoff,
history.
It was a fun set too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No one forgets dragon shapeshifters with Dragon's Claw and Shyvana just being immune to magic damage.
Man, that was my favorite build.
Good times. It was fun. Yeah. Shapeshifters was great. I loved it. But
I would say that player count wise, set 4 also should enter a lot of the equation because a lot of people love set 4. I think a lot more casuals love set 4.
I mean, I think set 4 is probably the most enjoyable to watch the fights.
It was so.
I think
pretty.
In terms of actual game design, I think set 6 is definitely the best.
Agree. Hard agree. 6, 4, 1. But we can rank all of them later. Someday we'll have the ability to rank all 10 plus sets. We'll get there eventually, and then we can come back to this. We can revisit this again. Sure. But congrats to What Do You Mean 7 on being chosen by Noster for your question, and you win $10, I believe it is, a gift card. So congratulations, and thanks to Noster for answering that one. And so that brings us now to the end of the show. It's been a great show. It's been fun to talk about everything. There's been ups and downs, but overall, we're here because we like TFT and we like to watch the scene grow, and all of you in chat are a part of that. So we're glad you could join us. Noster, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a ton of fun. Before we
Thank you for
go,
having
do you
me.
have any parting words for us? Any shout outs? The floor is yours.
No. Thanks for having me. Shout out to I guess I'll shout out my T Person and Fizdoink if they're in chat still. They're my friends. But other than that, no. Thank you for having me. I had a good time, and maybe I'll be back here someday.
Yeah, I would bet on it for sure. Dan, any parting thoughts for you?
Yeah, so tomorrow I will be doing a podcast with Bryce Blum. It's the Don't Talk If You Don't Know podcast at 6:30 p.m. So basically 23 hours from now, we're going to be releasing the updated power rankings. We have an all-new panel because half the people are on break. So we have Setsuko, who's part of the panel, and I feel comfortable in saying this, a face reveal. That's right. No one knows what Setsuko looks like.
Ooh,
He
wow.
actually sent us his profile picture. So it'll be fun to take a look at that. That's right. Don't talk if you don't know. Coming up on March 10th. Wow, thank you. I actually didn't even put that in the notes.
Neat. Our producers are on top of it, as usual.
Ramkev is going to be our guest. And apparently Ramkev's doing a double header. He has also the Triforce Tactics podcast, which I also want to shout out as well. I think they do good stuff. It's Spicy Appy, Shirachi, and Ramkev. So that's going to be happening like 2 hours beforehand, and then Ramkev's going to hop on our podcast. Probably talk very similarly about the same issues that he has to bring up. But we'll also talk about players. I think the 3 players that he'll be grading with the specific report card is himself, Appies, and Goose. So that should be fun to see what he thinks about those players.
Should be a good time.
And there you go.
I enjoy watching it every time. I will enjoy watching it again. And there's also the 6.5 Challenger Series coming up this weekend. That's going to be fun. Lots of great players fighting for one of the last chances you've got to get into NA Regionals. So if you're a fan of any of these players on the list down here, definitely watch that. And even if you're not, definitely watch it. It should be great TFT. Get to see 12.5B on full display and get almost maybe a little bit of an NA Regionals preview as far as how a tournament meta might shake up on this patch. So it should be really cool. Looking forward to watching that, and it'll be a good time. So definitely check that out. But that is about it. That ends the show. Thank you so much to everybody for watching. Thank you to Giant Slayer for putting this on. It's always a ton of fun. It's been great, as it always is. Thanks to Riot for making the game we all love. As much as we complain sometimes, again, it does come from a place of love. We know you can do better, so we're just here to help push you along, I guess, sometimes. But in the end, it's been a great show. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Watch Challenger Series this weekend. Watch it. Don't Talk If You Don't Know. Watch Triforce podcast. Watch Noster stream. Watch all the TFT stuff you can. Have a good time with it. Be excellent to each other. Stay safe. And we will see you next time.